I, Fredrick Gouglass, truly believe that all the African Americans should have freedom to make their own decision to whether stay in the United States or move to another country in order to pursue their own happiness. I, Highland Garnet, think that there is no way that African Americans and whites are ever be able to live together under the condition of being equal. Therefore, all the African Americans should move to Africa, where they are originally from. That way they can receive equal respect to live better life. I will give 7 considerations for you. 1. No one idea has given rise to more oppression and persecution toward the colored people of this country than that which makes Africa, not America, their home. It is that wolfish idea that elbows us off the sidewalk and denies us the rights of citizenship. The life and soul of this Jesuitical and persistent teaching of the American Colonization Society. The natural and unfailing tendency of the African Colonization Society, by sending around the hat in all our towns and cities for money to send colored men to Africa, will be to keep life and power in this narrow, bitter, and persecuting idea that Africa, not America, is the Negro's true home. 2. The abolition of American slavery, and the moral, mental and social improvement of our people, are objects of immediate, pressing and transcendent importance, involving a direct and positive issue with the pride and selfishness of the American people. The prosecution of this grand issue against all the principalities and powers of church and state furnishes ample occupation for all our time and talents. And we instinctively shrink from any movement which involves a substitution of a doubtful and indirect issue for one which is direct and certain, for we believe that the demand for abolition of slavery, now made in the name of humanity, and according to the law of the living God, though long delayed, will, if faithfully pressed, certainly triumph. 3. Among all the obstacles to the progress of civilization and of Christianity in Africa, there is not one so difficult to overcome as the African slave trade. No argument is needed to make this position evident. The African Civilization Society will doubtless assent to its truth. Now, so regarding the slave trade, and believing that the existence of slavery in this country is one of the strongest props of the African slave trade, we hold that the best way to put down the slave trade, and to build up civilization in Africa, is to stand our ground and labor for the abolition of slavery in the U.S. But for slavery here, the slave trade would have been long since swept from the ocean by the united navies of Great Britain, France, and the United States. The work, therefore, to which we are naturally and logically conducted, as the one of primary importance, is to abolish slavery. 4. One of our chief considerations upon which the African Civilization Society is recommended to our favorable regard, is its tendency to break up the slave trade. We have looked at this recommendation, and find no reason to believe that any one man in Africa can do more for the abolition of that trade, while living in Africa, than while living in America. If we cannot make Virginia, with all her enlightenment and Christianity, believe that there are better uses for her energies than employing them in breeding slaves for the market, we see not how we can expect to make Guinea, with its ignorance and savage selfishness, adopt our notions of political economy. Depend upon it, the savage chiefs on the western coast of Africa, who for ages have been accustomed to selling their captives into bondage, and pocketing the ready cash for them, will not more readily see and accept our moral and economical ideas than the slave traders of Maryland and Virginia. 5. There are slaves in the United States to the number of 4 millions. They are stigmatized as an inferior race, fit only for slavery, incapable of improvement, and unable to take care of themselves. Now, it seems plain that here is the place, and we are the people to meet and put down these conclusions concerning our race. Certainly there is no place on the globe where the colored man can speak to a larger audience, either by precept or by example, than in the United States. 6. If slavery depended for its existence upon the cultivation of cotton, and were shut up to that single production, it might even be fairly questioned whether any amount of cotton culture in Africa would materially affect the price of that article in this country, since demand and supply would go on together. But the case is very different. Slave labor can be employed in raising anything which human labor in the earth can produce. If one does not pay, another will. Christie says, cotton is king, and our friends of the African civilization movement are singing the same tune. But clear enough it must appear to common sense that King Cotton in America has nothing to fear from King Cotton in Africa. 7. We object to enrolling ourselves among the friends of that new colonization scheme, because we believe that our people should be let alone, and given a fair chance to work out their own destiny where they are. We are perpetually kept, with wondering eyes and open mouths, looking out for some mighty revolution in our affairs here, which is to remove us from this country. The consequence is that we do not take a firm hold upon the advantages and opportunities about us. Permanent location is a mighty element of civilization. In a savage state men roam about, having no continued abiding place. They are going. Towns and cities, houses and homes, are only built up by men who had long enough to build them. There is a powerful motive for the cultivation of an honorable character, in the fact that we have a country, a neighborhood, a home. Type here to make me say something. Drag and drop icons into the text to make me do stuff. Change who is talking by adding a new text box using the plus button. Okay, I was wrong. Now I totally understand your point.